compare both of those two actors and their performances, and one is clearly a weaker link. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is that she doesn't bring that star power the way that he did. Their performances weren't as effective as each other's. That's my point. Where, okay, she's the pretty girl, she's the wallflower, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, there are many women that go through these types of experiences, yes. However, within just like a couple days, she's like gonna fucking walk out with her fucking cornet and be like, I got these fucking guns.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
She's the one that is able to adapt very quickly. Like Michelle Rodriguez isn't adapting as easily to the situation as Debicki does.
That's because she's got an abusive mother.
And kids.
Exactly. She has more at risk. She has more at stake.
But Debicki, I feel like we don't see her full transformation until she has that feud with Viola Davis where they slap each other.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to allow this anymore. Nobody's going to abuse me anymore or whatever. And I think that's what Chris is trying to say, is that character.
She goes from being very demure in the beginning, especially in that scene with Jackie Weaver, to
people talk her into things.
Figuring out how to get along with this heist, how to do what is needed to be done, and then to standing up for herself against Veronica, who is very much in the mode of, I'm the boss, you do what I say. And when she talks shit and
she says you're acting like a real cunt, and she's like, don't call me that word.
And she slaps her, and then Debicki just slaps her right back and says that she's through taking shit.
She should have done that shit to her mom.
Jackie Weaver making what does she say? I'm making Krabby snacks and homemades. Deep cut. What about you besides Kaluuya?
Viola Davis, Belle's character.
Belle, this was her first real movie.
Because she's a Broadway actor.
Yeah.
And this is the first real movie she did.
Cynthia Erivo.
She's great in Bad Times at the El Royale, which is not a good movie, but she's great in it. And then she's in this, and you kind of, because her storyline is very disconnected from everyone else in the movie, and you don't really know where she fits in until you see her come to babysit Michelle Rodriguez's kid when they have to go where they meeting. She's meeting with Veronica and Alice, right? Mm-hmm. So she has to leave, and Cynthia Erivo is the babysitter that comes in to take care of the kids.
She also works at like a salon, which is being strong-armed by the Mulligans, or we find out that later that they owe.
It's like he set them up.
Yeah.
But you need to pay us, our tribute.
The kickbacks.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they call them?
Yeah.
Which is essentially what the girls are going to steal $5 million because they won't be able to say it's been stolen because they're not supposed to have that money in the first place. Yeah,
it's ill-gotten gains.
Yeah.
So that's where she enters the story, but she doesn't really join the crew until basically the third act, because Veronica can't convince Carrie Coon's character to come in on the job, so they need a fourth.
Because she has a newborn, right? She kind of leaves her alone, okay, whatever.
And Veronica's driver, Bash, who's played by Garrett Dillahunt,
gets fucking murdered.
Gets murdered by Kaluuya and his crew.
Off screen.
But
it's still crazy.
Yeah. But you can hear the beginnings of that beating that he starts taking in the apartment. And then Kaluuya turns up the TV really loud so that you can't hear it.
Give him a 2-piece.
No, 2-piece spicy. No biscuit. But because Bash is killed, they need a driver. And then that's where Michelle Rodriguez brings Erivo in. She doesn't drive, but she says, "Hey, can you drive?" And then they bring her in, and there's that great scene where they're in the warehouse, and Veronica's like, "Who the fuck is this? And why did you bring her here?"
But she's like not really talking to her
Yeah,
directly.
she's talking to Alice and Linda, but not really talking to Belle. And then Belle says, "Hey, I'm right here. You can talk to me." I'm nudging you because you aren't speaking.
Because I'm listening to you.
I'm hijacking the show.
I know.
But this is your show.
What? That's not my show.
I'm sitting in
It's
on
show.
it. It's your show.
I told
I'm
you. I
sitting
think
in
it was
on
Belle. I think she was badass.
She is badass.
And I like her, how they accentuate like her being a jogger. And how that comes into play at the end with where she's like scoping out everything, and she's like a huge help to them. Where she figures out all the surveillance camera and everything. I feel like everything, the success of the heist is largely because of Belle.
She's the one that creates the diversion that gets the other three inside.
Mm-hmm. The
Not
flares.
the wallflower. Jesus Christ, that's my point.
But she's on the crew, the inside crew.
I noticed they never really tie up what happened with Jamal, because we know they kill his brother because he had been tailing Veronica the whole time and was just going to steal all the money for himself.
Yeah, they pull off the heist.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't expect. It's the maid that throws them off.
Oh yeah.
And then Duvall comes out of the panic room, ends up shooting Alice and wounding her, and then Linda kills.
Because he had seen her, he pulls the hockey mask off of Veronica. So then
he knows who she is because
Yeah.
she had talked to him earlier in the film.
the identity was compromised, so they had no choice but to kill him. Which actually turns out good for Colin Farrell's character, because he ends up winning
For Jack, yeah.
sympathy votes.
Yeah, he wins the election when it looks like he's going to get beat. Because Jamal starts coming up in the polls. So it looks like he's going to get beat, but it's the death of his father during the heist that gives him the sympathy vote that puts him over the top and wins him the alderman seat. But yeah, Kaluuya is tailing them. Once they have the money, he rips them off, takes off in a van, they give chase, and then he ends up crashing into...
Like a center divider.
Yeah, like the center divide before the tunnel, which is a great scene because the shot's all inside the van.
And looks like one shot, like how when he dies.
Yeah.
He looks fucked up.
Yeah,
he's like crushed up against the steering column. Smashed into the windshield.
So I'm assuming that Veronica knew that he was going to do that the entire time, right? And that's how that's why they were prepared to pull the vehicle out and chase him down. Because he tips her off with Bash's ring and all these things, and she knows that they probably know she has the notebook. So why would they all be that oblivious that they weren't going to try to take the money from them?
You're making sense. I don't know if that's
I didn't think about that.
If that's 100% correct. And like Susie says, just didn't think about it. But
just like when she goes to, is it Amanda, the widow?
Carrie Coon, right?
Yeah, Carrie Coon's character. When Veronica goes there with her dog to her house to talk to her about something, and then she's like, you gotta stop with this whole heist thing, you gotta let it go or whatever. And then she goes into the other room with her baby, and then the dog starts scratching at the other door because obviously Harry's behind the door. Veronica
it's not just the dog. The flask is sitting on the...
I was getting there.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, then she walks up and then she sees the flask.
Yeah.
But then, instead of opening the door, she leaves. So, in my opinion, I feel like right there and then she started to figure out that Harry had set them up. This whole plan. You know what I mean? And that's why she didn't open the door and give away that she knew that he was alive. But, and she kind of just played that system to the very end. And that's why at the end when Harry comes out, even though we're surprised, I feel like she knew it was coming. She was hoping it wasn't going to come, but she knew that...
that Harry would. I thought you were talking about they knew that Kaluuya was going to try to rip him off.
Too.
I think that it was just, we went through all this shit for this money, and we're not going to let him just take that money from us.
Because there was $5 million, and they only owed the Mannings
Yeah.
two, but he was just gonna fucking, take it all, and then he ends up dying. But the purpose of bringing all this up is that they never tell us, maybe leaving it open for a sequel or whatnot, but they never say what happened to Jamal's character, because he still never got his money at all. They just fucking take all the money and they say,
Yeah, he lost the election, and
his
that's
brother's
the
dead.
end. Yeah, that's the end of that.
But do you think that Jamal would even know that they were involved with his brother's death? Based on the fact that he specifically told the brother, don't touch him.
Either way, Veronica still didn't make her deadline of the $2 million, because he gives her, like, what, you have a month?
A month, and then he drops it down to a week.
Or maybe it's a time, whatever the time jumps. But she obviously didn't deliver, unless they just didn't show us that, but she didn't deliver the money to him, which means that she would still owe him the money, right? Technically.
Or maybe, like you said, maybe because his brother gets killed in the process. I find it very hard to believe that he wouldn't have told Jamal what he was up to. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't know each part of that plan when they come out and they see Arrivos just sitting there. And then he has, like, the camera just kind of, like, moves and you see him holding the gun, like, to her head.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about earlier when I said, like, his last scene is really menacing and he has, like, no dialogue in it whatsoever. It's just, you see him and you know what he's up to.
And he's always just listening to that, like, talk radio.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what the big twist is.
Oh, yeah.
In the film, and that's that Liam Neeson's character, Veronica's husband, who's supposed to have died in the heist at the beginning, is not dead. As you said, when Veronica goes to visit Amanda, the dog and the flask tip her off that Harry is still alive.
Yep.
You see him talking with Jack, trying to make that deal that, I need to disappear, and Jack says, you need to give me the money. And that's the money that he plans on ripping off from Veronica and that crew after they make that. He plans on ripping them off to give the money to Jack to make him basically disappear for good. So he comes back at the end after they pull off the heist, and Arrivo and Viola Davis go back to the warehouse and are gonna part ways. Viola Davis is hauling in the money, and then Harry shows up, and they have an argument and a confrontation.
The kind of underlying twist in the entire movie was where their relationship as husband and wife started falling apart, and why it started falling apart, and how exactly that even relates to, like, today, like how shit goes down with police brutality and everything, and how her kid was gunned down by a fucking, trigger happy cop.
Because he was biracial.
Exactly. So that's very interesting to me, that's where you guys saw the more obvious twist, but not kind of that, like, I don't know.
Because you have no idea that they even had a son until,
But she does leave hints. They leave hints based on, like, when they're both kind of, like, laying down in bed and stuff, and she said, maybe this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have...
Our son would still be alive if you weren't with me.
Yeah. So that's where I find that very interesting, that kind of hasn't come up yet, and that it wasn't, like, kind of this deep-rooted twist in the movie, if that makes sense.
That divides Veronica and Harry's character, where he feels like he has nothing left in that relationship, and I feel like that's when he ends up... He was, I guess, secretly seeing his buddy's wife.
Who is her husband? Do we really know who her husband is in the movie?
He's
not the main. He's not the main character, right? We don't see him.
No, not very much.
No.
Okay.
What's his name? It's not Carlos. Is Michelle Rodriguez?
Yeah.
Right.
And we know that Bernthal is Debicki's.
Florrick. I forget. I think his name is John or something, kind of generic.
Okay.
But yeah, So he was, I guess, seeing, his buddy's wife